The beginning of the flood. Long ago, the world was very different. The earth was young, and people lived closely with the land around them. The sky stretched wide above, and the earth carried rivers, trees, animals, and many people. In those days, people began to feel far from the quiet good that once filled the world. It is said that the thoughts and actions of many had grown heavy and sad. The earth itself was filled with noise and trouble, and kindness was far less common than before. Amid this changing world, there was one man named Noah. Noah was gentle and good, someone who lived quietly and walked with care. He noticed how troubled the world had become, and he sought to live in peace and truth. One day a voice spoke to Noah. The voice was calm and sure, coming from way above, from the very presence of the Creator. This voice shared a plan, not a choice taken lightly, but something very serious. It was said that the earth was filled with sorrow and pain, and it needed a fresh start. The voice told Noah that soon the skies would weep in a way never known before. Rain would fall not just for a day or a week, but for many days and nights in a row. This rain would cover all the land, washing over hills and valleys, touching plains and forests. Water would rise, soft and steady, until everything beneath the sky was hidden beneath its gentle but powerful waves. Yet, even in this coming flood, there was a promise. Noah was told to build a great boat, an ark. This ark would be a quiet refuge, a place floating on the endless waters, safe from the rain and flood. The instructions were very detailed. The ark was to be large and strong, with rooms inside to hold many things. It was to be made carefully, with wood that could withstand water and time. There were to be windows high up and a door on the side, so that Noah and his family could enter and leave when it was time. Noah was also told to bring with him 2 of every kind of living thing, creatures that walk, crawl, and fly, from the smallest to the largest. They would come to the ark. Pairs of animals, gentle and wild alike, would find a resting place inside this floating home. Noah listened carefully. He did not rush. He worked patiently, slowly shaping the wood, measuring, cutting, and building. The sounds of his hammer and saw were steady and calm, a quiet rhythm on the still earth. Around him, people might have wondered what he was doing. It is uncertain if they understood the reason or the coming flood. Some may have questioned. Others may have simply passed by without thought. The days and weeks moved on. The ark grew piece by piece, strong and steady. Noah and his family worked together, sharing this task that felt both strange and sacred. Softly they gathered animals, encouraging them gently to go into the ark. Birds were coaxed with calm hands. Animals came with quiet steps. Each creature found a space, a corner meant just for them. As the work went on, the sky sometimes darkened, and the air felt heavy. But Noah kept steady. The rain had not yet begun, but the world was changing, whispering signs of what would soon come. One evening, the stars appeared like tiny lanterns, twinkling quietly above. Noah looked up and felt a quiet peace amidst the coming storm. He knew the ark was nearly ready. At last, the time came when Noah, his family, and the animals all entered the ark. The door was closed gently behind them, sealing the boat against the outside world. Then the clouds gathered slowly, like soft cotton filling the sky. The first drops of rain began to fall, light and gentle. At first, they tapped on the wooden roof, a slow and soothing rhythm. But the rain did not stop. It grew quietly stronger, falling steadily, as if the sky itself was breathing out. The earth, thirsty in some way or full of old memories, drank the rain like a long, slow sigh. The waters began to rise around the ark, lifting it softly. The gentle rocking was like a lullaby, a slow dance with the waves. Outside, the flood spread over hills, valleys, and forests. The rivers overflowed, covering the land with a soft blanket of water. The earth rested beneath this watery sheet, waiting. Inside the ark, Noah and his family cared for the animals. They spoke quietly, sharing warmth and calm with all the creatures around them. The world above was transformed. The endless rain continued, steady and sure, as if time itself had slowed to a peaceful, watery hush. And so, the beginning of the flood unfolded, a gentle rising of waters, a quiet ark carrying life safely through the days and nights to come. Days drifted into nights, and the rhythm inside the ark settled into a quiet harmony. The constant patter of rain on the sturdy wood was a soothing lullaby, a steady reminder of the world being washed anew beyond the walls. Inside, life continued gently, measured by the soft breathing of the animals and the even steps of Noah and his family tending to their needs. Each morning, dim light filtered through the small windows precisely where the Creator had instructed. It cast a gentle glow over the rows of compartments, where creatures of every size rested side by side. The chirping of birds mingled quietly with the soft tramping of hooves and the occasional snuffle or whisper from the animals. In this floating sanctuary, peace reigned, despite the turmoil outside. Noah's days were filled with careful tasks, feeding, watering, cleaning, and encouraging calm. His hands moved with practiced care, distributing food in measured amounts, always making sure that no animal was forgotten. His wife and children moved through the cramped spaces with kindness, speaking softly to ease the tension that sometimes bloomed with confinement. The air inside the ark was thick with a mixture of earthy scents, the musk of the beasts, the sweet fragrance of fresh hay, and the occasional splash of water from cleaning. Yet overlaying it all was the sacred stillness that came from knowing they were protected. Cradled in this handcrafted vessel, designed by divine wisdom. Outside, the floodwaters had transformed the earth utterly. Where once were green fields, villages, and forests, now there stretched only an endless shimmering expanse of water. Distant hills disappeared beneath its quiet embrace. The familiar shapes of life were submerged, destined for rest beneath the waves until the time of renewal. No sound reached the ark except the soft whispers of rain and the gentle rocking of the wood on the vast waters. Days passed seamlessly, marked only by the rise and fall of the internal rhythms, high tide, low tide, sleep and wakefulness, meals and quiet moments of reflection. Noah found comfort in the routine, a steady heartbeat amid the vast unknown beyond the ark's walls. The animals, remarkably, had settled into a surprising calm. Where fear might have grown, instead a mutual belonging took root. Predators and prey alike rested without threat, guided by the quiet authority of this sanctuary. There was an unspoken truce, a peace woven by the purpose that had brought them here. Noah's family found space to gather in the main chamber to share stories and prayers. Together, they held hands and sang softly, their voices a gentle balm to one another's souls. They remembered the world that was, and hoped with cautious hearts for the world that might be. Above, the rain slowly began to soften, changing from steady downpour to intermittent drops. Light returned, faint and tentative, peeking through the heavy clouds like a shy promise. The endless grays started to pale into soft shades of blue and gold. Though the storm was not yet over, the world outside was shifting once more. Days turned to weeks, and longer still. The water remained high, a vast glimmering sea without shore, yet inside the ark remained a small world of calm and life. Noah continued his watch carefully, always alert but never overwhelmed. His faith was quiet but unwavering. One morning a subtle sound reached their ears, a faint tapping on wood. Curious and hopeful, Noah and his family approached the window. Outside, a small olive branch had found its way to the ark, its green leaves fresh and alive. It was a sign, gentle and tender, of the earth slowly waking beneath the waters. They gathered around the branch with quiet joy, savoring the fragile hope it carried. It told of a time when the floodwaters would recede, when the sun would shine on green fields again, and when the earth would be ready to welcome life once more. Instinctively, Noah stepped out to the edge of the ark's deck, looking beyond the endless water. The sky was clearing now, wide and open, bathed in light that warmed the wood under his feet. In that moment, he felt a deep assurance. The promise held in that delicate branch was real. Still, patience was necessary. The flood was not yet complete. The earth required time to heal and rest. Inside, every creature continued to find comfort in their shared refuge, bound together by a purpose greater than any of them. Noah and his family worked to prepare for the new beginning that would come beyond this time. They gathered supplies carefully, maintained the order inside the ark, and nurtured the harmony that had blossomed amidst uncertainty. The animals, too, seemed to sense the changing time. There was a lightness in their steps, a soft whisper of anticipation in their quiet breaths. Life, even in this enclosed world, held the promise of renewal. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the clouds in hues of pink and amber, the waters finally began to recede more noticeably. Gentle currents revealed hidden tops of hills and the tips of trees, half submerged but alive beneath the flood's retreat. Noah knew the moment was approaching to open the ark's door once more. It would be a step into the unknown, a step guided by faith and courage. The world outside had been cleansed, and it was time to step forward into the fresh beginning promised all along. That night, as the ark rocked softly on the calmer waters, Noah lay awake with quiet gratitude. The Creator's voice echoed still within him, a reminder that this was only the beginning. The flood was ending, but the story of life, faith, and hope was just unfolding. A new dawn waited beyond the horizon. The sound of dripping water echoed softly against the wooden walls of the ark, a gentle rhythm that marked each moment as the floodwaters continued their slow retreat. Outside, the world was changing, inch by inch, as the earth emerged from its watery shroud. Noah stood quietly by the ark's small window, his eyes fixed on the horizon where hills and the tops of trees now pierced the remaining surface of the flood. A calm certainty settled over him. The time was drawing near. Inside, the creatures stirred with new energy. The lions no longer watched the deer with wary eyes, but shared the shade beneath broad beams with a patient quietness. The birds began to sing with soft trills, their melodies tentative yet full of hope. Even the shy rabbits ventured closer to the feeding troughs, sensing the world beyond the ark was healing. It was a fragile peace, but it was peace nonetheless. Noah moved through the rooms with careful steps, checking on each pair of animals to ensure they were well. He paused by the stall of the young lambs, whose soft bleats were a comforting murmur in the vast stillness. Nearby, the elephants trumpeted gently, swaying to an unseen rhythm. The ark was a sanctuary not only from the flood, but from all fear and despair, a floating sanctuary of life that clung to the promise of tomorrow. His family gathered on the central platform, the place where moments of unity had long been shared. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, his sons, looked out with eyes full of wonder and cautious optimism, while their wives whispered prayers for the days ahead. Noah reached out to his wife, his hands steady and warm. They exchanged quiet smiles, the kind that spoke of faith carried through storms. The olive branch, still resting beside the main doorway, glistened with droplets of water. It was a humble token, yet its meaning was immense. It was the earth's whispered message, a sign that beneath the flowing waters, life was preparing to awaken, roots ready to grasp the soil once again. Noah's heart filled with gratitude for the patience they had all shown, the animals, his family, himself. As the light grew stronger each day, the horizon stretched wide and clear. The sun poured golden hues over hills softened by rain and time. The ark's keel began to rest upon rising land, subtle but unmistakable. The shifting beneath the wood was gentle, as though the earth was ready to welcome them back. Noah's thoughts turned to the steps that awaited, steps beyond the door, beyond this great vessel that had sheltered them through the flood. Inside, the hours passed in quiet preparation. Food stores were carefully sorted, spaces cleared to make room for movement and care. The animals, now well rested and less anxious, adjusted to the rhythm of a world healing outside. The caged spaces no longer felt like prisons, but like resting places, safe and nurturing. Seeds saved from before the flood were unwrapped and counted, ready to be planted when the soil was once again firm and fertile. Noah called his sons together to share plans: where to build first, which trees to seek for fruit, how to ensure water would remain clean and nourishing. Their voices were low but filled with purpose. The immense task of renewal lay before them, but the strain of despair had lifted. What remained was hope, steady and sure, like the slow but certain ebbs of the flood itself. The days grew longer, warmer. The soft hum of life returned around the ark. Outside, small islands appeared, a patchwork of earth where grass and wildflowers would soon bloom. Streams shimmered between the rocks. Birds circled the sky, their wings spread wide, free from the confining hush of rain. One morning, as the sun rose in a blaze of gentle colors, Noah approached the great door. His fingers pressed against the latch, heart steady but filled with reverence. Around him, the animals paused, as though sensing the moment's weight. The door swung slowly open, the fresh air of a reborn world flooding in. Beyond the ark, the earth stretched vast and open, washed clean and waiting. The scent of wet soil and growing plants rose like a promise. Noah stepped out first, his feet sinking slightly into the soft ground, the mud a reminder of both destruction and creation. The animals followed, one by one, each finding their feet on the solid earth, their eyes wide with new wonder. Noah bent to the soil, gathering a handful, letting it sift slowly through his fingers. Life was here, in the earth, in the air, in the soft light. He lifted his hands toward the sky, a silent prayer of thanks escaping his lips, carried on the fresh breeze. His family joined him, their voices blending in a quiet song, not one of fear, but of faith and renewal. Around them, the sounds of the world returning whispered gently, the chirp of a new bird, the rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of flowing water. It was a beginning, soft and sure. The days that followed were filled with discovery and quiet work. Noah and his family explored the land, mapping the hills and valleys, gathering seeds and planting roots. The animals adapted to the wild again, some still cautious but all eager for the freedom of open spaces. Together they built shelter, marked the boundaries of their new home, and honored the promise given by the olive branch, the promise of life restored. At night, beneath a sky strewn with stars, Noah looked out across the land, peaceful and vast. The ark, now resting on Earth's gentle curve, stood as a monument to endurance, faith, and the fragile beauty of hope. Tomorrow held unknown challenges, but for that moment, all was calm. In the quiet that wrapped around them, a soft breeze carried the scent of fresh growth and whispered of future days. The flood was a memory, a journey through darkness into light, and in that light a new world awaited, the beginning not just of survival, but of life itself, renewed and full of promise. The morning sun cast gentle rays through the scattered clouds, painting the sky with soft hues of pink and gold. Noah stood at the ark's threshold, his eyes tracing the horizon, where distant hills hinted at a land reborn. The air was fresh, carrying whispers of distant streams and rustling leaves. He inhaled deeply, a quiet gratitude filling his chest. The animals moved slowly, some stretching their limbs after the confinement within the ark's wooden halls. A pair of doves fluttered overhead, their wings brushing the tender sky. Their coos echoed softly, a subtle hymn to new beginnings. Nearby, the lambs nuzzled one another, their fleece still warming to the sun's gentle embrace. Noah's sons walked beside him, each carrying bundles of seeds, their hands steady, hearts full of purpose. They chose a patch of earth where the soil was dark, rich with promise. Carefully, they made shallow furrows, planting rows of grain, lentils, and herbs, the very sustenance of survival. Each seed nestled into the ground was a silent prayer, a whisper of hope for growth and renewal. Life stirred around them. The grass beneath their feet felt cool and soft, dotted with wildflowers swaying in the light breeze. A pair of deer stepped lightly through the new meadows, their delicate hooves pressing into the yielding earth. Noah watched as they moved with a fragile grace, tentative but eager to reclaim the open spaces. Water murmured softly nearby, a stream born from the melting snows of the ancient mountains. Its currents gleamed like silver threads weaving through the land. Noah knelt by the edge, cupping his hands to drink. The water was pure, cold, and alive. Beside him, his sons dipped clay pots, preparing to bring fresh water back to their growing settlement. Evening approached with a quiet softness. Noah's family gathered around a small fire, their faces glowing with warmth beneath the deepening sky. The animals clustered near, sensing the safety and ease that had settled over the day. The crackling flames whispered stories of endurance and trust as stars began their slow dance across the velvet night. Noah spoke little, but his eyes reflected the countless dreams stirring within. Each one was a vision, of homes built with patient hands, of fields waving golden under the sun, of laughter echoing through the days yet to come. Around him his family breathed in the calm, their hearts steady, their spirits intertwined with the land's new rhythm. Throughout the nights and days that followed, the work unfolded gently, a symphony of small, steady motions. Trees were tended, young saplings sheltered from the unexpected chills. Paths were cleared, not rushed, but shaped by careful feet, mindful of the earth's tender new growth. Noah found moments of quiet solitude, standing beneath the towering sky, watching clouds drift like slow ships across the blue ocean above. Sometimes he closed his eyes to listen. The hum of insects beginning to stir, the slow return of birdsong weaving around the hills. Each sound was a note in the delicate melody of restoration. Together the family repaired what had been broken, their hands crafting tools from stone and bone, shaping wood with gentle strength. They built simple shelters, not grand but warm and steady, offering refuge from the evenings that turned cool before dawn. The animals, too, found their rhythms. The horses rolled in soft earth, shaking off long-held fears. Birds gathered in flocks, wings brushing against one another in delicate harmony. Even the shy creatures, foxes, rabbits, and shy hedgehogs, felt safe to emerge, their eyes bright with cautious curiosity. Days folded into weeks with a quiet grace. The fields, once barren, bore the first green shoots, trembling lightly in morning light. It was a slow unveiling, a tender unfolding of life's new chapter. Every sprout was a silent vow, each leaf a quiet triumph. Noah often walked among the growing fields, his fingers brushing the tender plants, his mind whispering prayers of endurance and care. He remembered the flood's fury, its vastness and power, yet here in this delicate world of recovery, he found strength in the gentleness of healing. His sons worked alongside him, their hands steady with newfound purpose. They learned to read the sky, watching for signs of rain, for the soft winds that promised fertile days. Their laughter mingled with the quiet calls of the animals, threading through the air like hopeful threads. One day, as the sun warmed the rising hills, Noah gathered his family near a clear spring that bubbled from the earth like a precious jewel. They knelt together, hands joined, expressing gratitude for the water's life-giving flow. Around them, the world seemed to pulse with possibility, each breath a testament to survival and trust. The ark remained behind as a watchful guardian, its timbers weathered but proud, a vessel that had cradled life through darkness to dawn. Occasionally Noah approached it, tracing the worn wood with tender reverence. It was more than shelter. It was a symbol, a reminder of the promise, that even in the depths of trial, hope could rise. As seasons waned and waxed, the earth continued its gentle healing. Rivers found new courses, carving soft valleys between hills. Meadows reached full bloom, awash in colors that dazzled the senses. The scent of fresh earth and growing things filled the air, a balm to the soul. Noah stood beneath a spreading oak, its branches wide and welcoming. Beneath its shade, he rested for a moment, feeling the pulse of the world steady beneath his fingertips. It was a moment of quiet victory, of serene acceptance. The night settled once more, stars gleaming like scattered jewels in the cool sky. Fires flickered softly by the humble homes, laughter and song blending with the gentle chorus of life renewed. Noah's family lay down, hearts calm and spirits light. In the silence, a gentle peace embraced the earth, a peaceful promise that, though the flood had passed, its lessons would linger in the whisper of the wind, in the resilience of roots, and in the steady beat of human hope enduring. The beginning of the flood's end marked not just survival, but a tender, unfolding hope, a world knitted back together with patience, faith, and love, ready to grow anew beneath the endless sky. The air held a quiet richness as dawn stretched light across the renewed earth. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves overhead, whispering softly through the branches of the saplings Noah and his family had nurtured. Each small green shoot, bending carefully in the morning wind, seemed a fragile yet steadfast pledge to life continuing, growing, unfolding beyond what had been lost. Noah rose slowly, the fresh coolness wrapping around him like a balm. His eyes followed a fluttering bird high above, its delicate silhouette tracing arcs in the amber dawn. The songs of returning creatures layered softly on the breeze, a choir lifting in tentative but certain harmony. Out here, in the stillness after the flood, the world breathed again, steady and deliberate. The family stirred too, moving with gentle reverence through their shared routine. Sons gathered water from the clear spring that bubbled nearby, its gentle murmur echoing through the hollow. Their careful footsteps pressed soft impressions in the damp earth, marking paths worn smooth by habit and care. Women tended fires that cracked warmly, the smoke rising in slow spirals to meet the vast pale sky. All around, life whispered, leaves rustling, animals venturing cautiously beyond their hidden thickets, the promise of fruit swelling slowly on the branches that had been coaxed back to strength. The land, once battered and raw, folded itself into a quiet rhythm of renewal, a rhythm that beckoned to Noah's heart, steadying it against memories of storm and desolation. Noah's hands rested briefly on the cool bark of a growing tree, feeling the pulse beneath, slow and sure, It was a heartbeat steady through the seasons, a silent witness to time's gentle passage. He knelt beside a patch of tender green shoots, the first wildflowers bravely unfolding their pale faces toward the sky. Each petal seemed a whispered prayer, a soft promise that beauty could return. The family gathered their tools, fashioned from polished stone and seasoned wood, their careful work a meditation of hands and hearts aligned with the earth's needs. Sharpening blades, weaving rope, shaping wood, they carried out each task without haste, fully present to the simple act of creation after so much destruction. Meals were shared beneath the open sky, the smell of roasted herbs mingling with fresh dew and earth. Stories floated softly between words, memories kept safe like precious seeds, whispered not as burdens, but as roots that held them strong against the wind. Laughter, rare and treasured, blossomed softly, light as the dawn, warm as the growing sun. Noah glanced upward as a subtle shifting marked the sky. Clouds, gentle and full-bodied, drifted like slow thoughts across the vast canvas. He remembered how simply watching the heavens had come to feel like reading a sacred text, a language of hope written in wind and water, sun and shadow. Today, the signs spoke softly of rain to come, not the fury that swept before, but the nurturing kind that would coax roots deeper and grasses higher. The younger children played nearby, their footsteps light and free, chasing shapes across the grass and mimicry of birdsong. A small fox appeared, cautious but curious, its golden eyes bright with cautious trust. It lingered a moment at the edge of the clearing before retreating into the sheltering brush, a sign that fear continued to loosen its grip on the wild. As the sun climbed higher, Noah found himself drawn toward the ark. It stood quietly atop its high ridge, weathered and strong, an enduring symbol not simply of survival, but of faith woven through the fabric of this new world. Touching the worn timber, he felt a deep gratitude embraced by an unspoken promise that this shelter, like their hearts, held space for both what was past and what was still to come. The afternoon passed in a gentle unfolding. The family worked side by side, tending earth, mending shelters, sharing quiet words and soft smiles. Their collective breath was a rhythm of healing, their steady hands a blessing planted firmly in the soil. Even amid the tasks, moments of pause settled in. Pause to watch a breeze ripple across the field, pause to feel the warm sun on skin, pause to listen for the silent stories carried by the wind. As evening spread her deep hues across the sky, shadows lengthened and softened. The family gathered once more by the central fire, its glow painting the faces around it with a tender light. They spoke little, their silence rich with shared understanding. The night around them held its own song, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of nighttime creatures, the soft breath of earth cooling after the sun's departure. Noah's gaze rose again, tracing constellations newly bright in the dark dome above. The stars seemed clearer, sharper, each one a steady point of ancient light traveling beyond time. He felt a deep peace settle inside, a tranquil assurance carried on the quiet wings of the night. The story of the flood was not over, but it had become a chapter folded safely into the larger narrative of creation. Rest came easily that night, beneath a sky full of quiet stars. The world held its breath with Noah and his kin, in a gentle pause between what had been and what would be, ready to awaken once again with the dawn. The land, the creatures, the family, all entwined in the delicate dance of survival and hope. The beginning of the flood was now part of the story, but so was its end. Painted in the soft hues of morning and the endless promise of a tomorrow patiently waiting to unfold. At the first light of dawn, a gentle mist curled above the earth, softening the edges of the world. Noah rose quietly, careful not to disturb the hum of morning. Around him, the forest whispered awake, leaves trembling with dew, birds lifting their song in slow, tentative steps toward day. His hands moved with familiar care, gathering a handful of damp soil. It was warm and fragrant, alive. The land breathed beneath his fingers, a living pulse returning after the long silence. He thought of the tree that had grown steadily, its trunk thickening each day, like the very time that passed. It was a sign, simple yet profound, that life renewed itself despite the darkest hours behind them. The family stirred soon, their footsteps blending with the soft rustling of plants. Together, they ventured beyond the shelter, tracing the gentle slopes toward a stream that hadn't been visible in months. Water shimmered over smooth stones, clear and laughing along its ancient path. Children reached to touch it, delight sparkling in their eyes. It was a baptism of fresh beginnings, a chance to wash away yesterday's shadows. Noah knelt beside them, watching the water ripple through the fingers of the youngest. The wildflowers they had tended waved lightly in the breeze, their colors richer with every sunrise. These small wonders stitched the world bit by bit, a mosaic of resilience and hope. Around them, the land was waking, green blades piercing the dark soil, animals returning to old habits as new life etched its place. Harvesting newly sprouted roots and climbing slender branches, Noah and his family moved with deliberate kindness. The tools they had crafted, smooth stones, sharpened wood, rested easily in their hands. Nothing was wasted. Every vine cut, every seed gathered, was a thread in the tapestry of survival they wove together. Afternoons slid by like whispered promises. They worked side by side, repairing roofs from fallen logs, weaving baskets, and reinforcing the fences that protected fledgling gardens. The sky shifted gently above, clouds scattered like soft cotton, but never heavy with the threat of storm. Rain came as a welcome murmur, brief and tender, nurturing the earth without fear. Evening heralded a gentle coolness. The family sat once more around the fire, the flames crackling low, casting warm light on faces and hands. Quiet moments stretched between them, the comfort of shared presence binding stronger than words. Laughter came softly, like the delicate song of a bird in the dark, rare and precious. Noah's gaze wandered upward to the stars. The constellations remained steady, guardians of the night, shining with unwavering clarity. The Milky Way stretched like a silver river across the fabric of sky, a reminder of endless journeys and steadfast faith. He felt peace settle over him, a calm assurance that this fragile world, scarred but beautiful, could endure. In the deep quiet, a fox appeared near the edge of the clearing, a silent silhouette. It paused, eyes meeting Noah's briefly, then slipped away into the trees. The encounter felt sacred, a subtle sign that nature was mending itself gently and surely. Life in all its forms was threading back through the cracks of the earth. Night deepened, crickets began their steady chorus, a lullaby spun from the simplest threads of sound. The family rested beneath blankets woven from bark and fiber. Breaths, even and slow, merged with the rhythm of the earth, a steady heartbeat beneath the vast dome of stars. Noah closed his eyes, picturing the future stretching before them. Quiet mornings, shared songs, the soft unfolding of days without end. The flood was a memory, distant as a cloud drifting beyond the horizon. What remained was the promise, cradled in every sprouting leaf, every tender root, every pulse of warm life. As sleep wrapped around the world, the land whispered of new beginnings. The flood had passed, but hope endured, steady, patient, unyielding. And so beneath the watchful eyes of countless stars, their story moved gently forward, carried on the breath of the wind, the rustle of the trees, and the quiet strength of a world reborn. Dawn crept slowly, tinting the sky in soft shades of rose and blue. The forest, a quiet orchestra of morning sounds, greeted the day with tender murmurs. The breath of the earth expanded again, faint but steady, as if it remembered its strength despite the tremors of the past. Noah stirred early, drawn by the crisp air that slipped gently through the thin curtains of their home. He rose quietly, so as not to disturb the peaceful slumber of his family. Outside, the world seemed to hold its breath, the trees still dripping with motherhood dew, the subtle hum of insects waking to their work. Stepping barefoot across the dew-damp earth, he could feel the texture, soft, slightly yielding underfoot. The pulse beneath the surface was new, fragile, like hope. It had to be handled with care. Near the edge of the garden, green shoots poked through the rich soil, delicate and bright. Their spindly leaves wavered in the tender breeze, a gentle hello from the plants reminding him life was ongoing. Here and there, tiny blossoms peeked out, shy splashes of white and yellow among the earthy tones, like the shy smile of a child waking from sleep. He stood a moment longer, hands settling on the rough bark of an old oak that had somehow stood unshaken. The tree's strength anchored him, its quiet wisdom and unseen support in a world still healing. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. His wife, eyes wide with that same quiet wonder. She looked at the garden, the young green life stirring in the light, and smiled. Together they walked slowly to where the children had gathered. The young ones were at the stream again, their laughter clear and bright as they played in the shallow water. Tiny hands splashed eagerly, sending droplets sparkling like jewels in the morning sun. They chased each other in gentle circles, their carefree joy like a balm to the wearied spirit. Noah watched them, each smile, each shriek of delight, a promise that resilience lived not just in the earth, but in hearts and laughter too. A family of deer moved cautiously through the underbrush. They paused, ears flicking, then stepped quietly toward the clear water to drink. Seeing them feel safe enough to return made a quiet happiness rise in Noah's chest. The fragile trust between man and nature had begun to mend. The garden was a small patch of promise. The family moved through it with measured care, pulling out a few tender roots and gathering wild herbs now bursting with fragrance. The scent of basil, mint, and lavender mingled in the air, soft and reassuring. Noah's eldest son knelt beside him, eyes bright with curiosity. He showed the boy how to gently loosen the soil without harming the fragile roots beneath, how to tend each plant as both provider and protector. "Everything grows when you listen," Noah whispered, his voice as soft as the breeze. The boy nodded, absorbing the lesson as if it were sunlight itself. As midday warmed the air, the family set about repairing fences with renewed purpose. They hammered boards carefully, weaving together splinters and strength in the same rhythm. It was a quiet labor, each nail driven a silent song of rebuilding, each board placed a stitch mending the fabric of their home. Their faces glistened with sweat, but no trace of weariness dared to shadow their eyes. This work was life. Together, they formed a small sanctuary, a fortress not against nature, but a home within it, balanced and respectful. The afternoon sun began to soften, casting long, gentle shadows through the canopy. A soft murmur of clouds gathered in the distance. A smile flickered across Noah's lips at the thought of rain again, not a fierce storm but gentle nourishment. When the first droplets fell, slow and tender as whispered blessings, the family paused. They let the cool water wash over their skin, and the earth beneath their feet soak in quiet gratitude. The familiar scent of rain on dry earth filled their lungs, sweet and renewing. Noah's youngest child ran outside, arms open wide, face lifted to the sky. The world's gentle pulse reached even the smallest heart, coaxing an exultation so pure it echoed without sound. Even as the rain tapered, a faint mist lingered, lifting from the soil like a soft memory. The trees gleamed, refreshed. The air shimmered with the promise of coming bloom. When night fell, the family gathered once more by the fire. The flames flickered and danced, casting soft light on faces glowing with contentment. No words were needed to bridge the quiet peace that had settled around them, the glow of ember and companionship sufficient warmth against the cool night. Noah traced shapes in the stars above, steady and silent companions in the dark vastness. Somewhere beyond the twinkling lights lay the vast unknown, but beneath this canopy he felt a solid certainty. The end of one trial was the start of another gentle chapter. The fire crackled, the children curled close, and the comforting weight of togetherness wrapped them like a soft cloak. A slight movement at the edge of the clearing caught Noah's eye. There, a shadow slipped, the fox. Its eyes caught the firelight, gleaming with quiet intelligence, as if to quietly acknowledge the healing in the air. Then with a gentle leap it vanished into the woods. Noah smiled softly. The silent visitor was a messenger, one small thread woven back into the vast tapestry of recovery. The night deepened, carrying the family's steady breathing in its arms. The memory of the flood grew faint, like a shadow retreating in the dawn. Ahead lay days bathed in quiet growth, time measured not in fear, but in the measured pulse of life. And in that stillness, in the gentle turn of the earth, hope was rooted deeper than ever before. Days passed with a quiet rhythm, soft as the dawn mist that curled through the trees. The garden grew in tender green bursts, shy shoots reaching toward the tender light. Each morning, the family gathered, hands brushing dew from leaves, eyes tracing the gentle arc of rainbows and puddles left by the night's rain. Noah's eldest son knelt beside the rose under the gray clouds, hands patient and sure. He gently removed a wilting leaf, whispering thanks to the plant for its tokens of life. Noah watched, heart steady, knowing this quiet teaching was more than growing crops. It was nurturing the delicate bridge between the earth and those who walk upon it. Their attentions widened beyond the garden. Small creatures, once timid, began to frequent their clearing again. A pair of rabbits darted through the low brush, their twitching noses unafraid, heralding peace. A chorus of birds punctuated the dawn with melodic chatter. The world had stitched itself anew, thread by careful thread. One morning, the family noticed an unusual stillness. The air held a soft weight, as if nature herself was holding her breath with them. Suddenly, the youngest child pointed upward, marvel sparkling in wide eyes. Overhead, a cluster of butterflies fluttered like fragile petals caught in a breeze. Their delicate wings shimmered with light beyond color, amber, sapphire, and a hint of gold, dancing in the quiet air. Noah smiled, feeling something ancient and tender stir in his bones. "They come with the promise of healing," he whispered. The children reached out, but the butterflies lifted just beyond fingertips, teasing the eye and heart with ephemeral beauty. Evening stretched long and gentle. The fire became a steady pulse, around which stories were woven anew. Noah's wife hummed a soft tune, her voice blending with crackling wood. The children nestled close, listened to tales not of destruction but of growth, of old trees that bent but did not break, of rivers that wound back to the sea, carrying life on their backs. Each story was a seed planted in their minds, a promise that beyond loss lay renewal. One afternoon, a breeze carried upon it the faint, sweet scent of blooming jasmine from the nearby thicket. The family paused their work, inhaling the scent, hearts buoyed by the simple fragrance. It was a reminder of duty's persistence, that even after great trials, softness persists. Noah touched the earth lightly, steady and sure, speaking aloud, "The world sings again, we listen." The garden began to bloom in earnest, wildflowers uprose in joyful bursts. Dandelions like golden suns waving softly beside tender shoots of lettuce and hardy herbs. The children gathered blooms, weaving them into crowns, their laughter bright like the morning light. Each petal and leaf carried a memory, laughter after rain, gentle steps of deer, whispers of wind, and together they formed a tapestry of hope. One evening, a quiet knock on the wooden door stirred the family's calm. At the threshold stood a neighbor, a woman with soil in her hair and warmth in her eyes. She carried a basket brimming with fresh eggs and a small bundle of knitted cloth. "I brought these for you," she said softly. "We'll need to share as we build again." Noah welcomed her, and soon their discussions grew. Quiet plans about shared gardens, about watching children play as one larger family, about nurturing the land and one another in patient, steady ways. With newfound companionship, their world expanded, gently stitched with threads of connection, kindness, and shared care. The days began to fold into seasons. The warm sun coaxed fruits to swell and ripen, and the family learned the subtle art of gathering without waste, of taking only what was given freely by the earth. Noah showed his eldest the wisdom of saving seed, teaching him how to choose the best, plumpest from each harvest to carry forward life's promise into the next year. At night, the stars blinked in silence, silver pinpricks beyond the reach of human longing. The family would sometimes step outside, gazing upward with quiet reverence. Noah's youngest would name each star as if old friends, her voice a gentle thread woven into the tapestry of the night. One such night, a soft scratch at the door revealed the fox's slender face once more, eyes gleaming with cautious curiosity. It came closer this time, stepping quietly into the circle of firelight. The children held their breath, the fox's presence a delicate bridge between their world and wilderness beyond. It lingered but a moment, then slipped away into shadows, leaving behind a whisper of wildness and freedom. The flood's memory, once sharp and jagged like broken glass, now felt like a softened stone, smoothed by time, less a wound and more a marker of endurance. The family had found in the gentle pulse of daily routine a whisper of eternity, the quiet certainty that life, like the earth beneath their feet, bends but does not break. Noah lingered by the garden as twilight deepened, breathing the cool air rich with the musk of earth and grass. He thought of the future, of coming springs and the laughter yet to fill the quiet woods. Hope, fragile and luminous, had taken root, and in the hush of settling darkness, the family's rhythm had become an unspoken promise that from the soft, patient tending of earth, heart, and hand, healing would ripple outward, a slow and steady tide, bright as new dawn. As the days lengthened into the gentle warmth of late spring, the family's rhythms deepened with subtle grace. Each morning, sunlight filtered through the soft green canopy above, dappling the earth with quiet splashes of gold. The garden, once a mere hope in the soil, was now a tapestry of life unfolding. Tender leaves stretched toward the sky, and vibrant flowers nodded gently in a breeze that seemed to carry whispers of promise. Noah often found himself pausing at the edge of the garden, hands cupped around a steaming mug, breathing in the scent of moist earth, mingled with the delicate perfume of jasmine and wild herbs. This fragrant melange had become their quiet anthem, an intimate reminder that even after so much loss, nature's pulse remained steadfast, persistent, and soothing. The children, their laughter weaving a soft undercurrent to the day's stillness, ventured among the rows of vegetables and blossoms. Their fingertips brushed over tomato sprigs, where tiny green fruits clustered like jewels. Nearby, the sunflowers stood tall, their heavy heads bowed under the weight of their own hopeful seeds. Flower crowns became their favorite ritual, a dance of discovery among petals and vines. With gentle care, they wove colors and stories into each loop, binding not only flowers but memory and joy to their crowns. Sitting beneath the boughs of an old oak, those crowns bridged the passage from grief to growth, a quiet celebration of life's resilience. One afternoon, as a lazy breeze stirred the jasmine, a familiar figure approached along the meandering path. Their neighbor Clara stepped lightly among the wildflowers, hands cradling a basket woven from fresh reeds. Inside, she carried jars of honey and bundles of dried herbs. "I thought the garden could use a sweet touch," she said softly, placing the gifts on the wooden table set beneath a blanket of warm sunlight. The children greeted her with shy smiles, then eagerly gathered around, their eyes bright with curiosity. Clara spoke of her own gardens, sharing wisdom born from years of nurturing soil and soul alike. Together they planted seeds, exchanged stories, and savored simple meals prepared from their shared harvest. The garden had become not only a sanctuary but a meeting place, a space where friendship blossomed alongside tomatoes and marigolds. As twilight draped its velvet cloak, star-studded and serene, Noah led the family outside for their nightly ritual. Gazing upward, they traced the constellations, a celestial tapestry woven with quiet stories of endurance and wonder. Each flicker in the vastness was a soft reminder of their connection to the unfolding cosmos, the infinite cycles of renewal and grace. On one such evening, a soft rustle in the underbrush caught their attention. The cautious fox, now a familiar visitor, emerged with delicate, purposeful steps. Eyes bright and alert, it paused to drink from a shallow pool before melting silently back into the shadows. Its presence was both a blessing and a reminder, a living thread between wilderness and home, a beacon of the wild heart that beats in every corner of the earth. Time moved gently, no longer measured by storms or fear, but by quiet growth and hopeful tending. The flood's memory, once sharp and overwhelming, softened with each passing day, its edges blurring like a watercolor in the rain. What remained was a sturdy, resilient strength, a quiet confidence born not of forgetting, but of enduring. Noah often sat beneath the oak, hands tracing the rough bark, thoughts swirling like the soft breeze. The future was never certain, yet within the steady work of planting, gathering, and caring, there bloomed a profound hope, a belief that healing was not a distant goal, but a living process, unfolding slowly, rooted deep in the soil and the heart. As the family gathered one evening around their fire, embers glowing like tiny stars reborn, their voices wove a gentle tapestry of stories. They spoke not of destruction, but of the blooming path ahead, of tenderness found in each new leaf, each shared smile. The flames danced in harmony with their whispers, a sacred echo of the promise that had carried them through. They lit small lanterns, their soft light flickering against the encroaching night, and released them gently into the dark sky. Each lantern floated upward, a delicate beacon of hope among the constellations, drifting gracefully toward an endless horizon. In that luminous moment, the family was bound not only by love and memory, but by the enduring whisper of life's persistence. the quiet, steady unfolding of a future shaped by hands joined and hearts healed. And so, with gentle breaths and tender steps, they moved forward into days painted with the soft hues of renewal and the ever-present promise that after every flood, the earth, like the human spirit, finds a way to bloom again,